In September 1991, severe fighting broke out in Mogadishu, which continued in the following months and spread throughout the country, with over 20,000 people killed or injured by the end of the year. These wars led to the destruction of Somalia's agriculture, which in turn led to starvation in large parts of the country. Operation Restore Hope began in 1992 as a last-ditch effort under George H.W. Bush to try and save his presidency. The mission was created to Operation was created to feed starving populations of civilians in Somalia. Warlords began seizing food for themselves during the operation, which led to the formation of Task Force Ranger. Task Force Ranger consisted of over 400 Army Rangers and Delta Force operators. This mission put Special Forces in a position that they were not used to: crowd control and urban fighting. They were not prepared for what would happen next. In the months after Operation Restore Hope, U.S. soldiers frequently came under attack from Somali warlords attempting to seize the food supplies for themselves, instead of letting the civilians grab them. The most notorious of the warlords was General Mohammed Farah Aidid. Aidid was the mastermind behind an ambush that left 24 UN Pakistani soldiers dead after they attempted to raid a weapons cache by his people. Operation Gothic Serpent began in June 1993, with the U.S.'s biggest priority being to capture Aidid instead of support the supplies going to the Somalis. For the attack on the UN peacekeepers, the United States put a bounty on him, but no price would drive his supporters to turn him in, so the United States knew that they would have to get him themselves. The United States repeatedly attempted to capture him, but poor intelligence kept failing Task Force Ranger, including an instance where they captured the wrong man. These failed missions helped the Somalis learn American tactics, such as Rangers cordoning off the streets, with Delta Force operators going in, and this would help them greatly during the Battle of Mogadishu. This proved to be true when Somalis shot down a 101st Airborne helicopter a week before the Battle of Mogadishu, killing 3 American soldiers. On October 3, 1993, U.S. intelligence received a tip that 90 Somalian leaders would be meeting at a nondescript 2-story building. Aidid was supposed to be one of them. The mission was only supposed to last 30 minutes at the most, in and out. 120 members of Task Force Ranger descended by helicopter, with the Rangers blocking off the streets upon landing and Delta landing on the top building to move in and secure prisoners, with AH-1 attack helicopters riddling the building with rockets to stun the targets inside. Delta Force managed to capture 24 people. None of them were ID'd as Aidid. Within minutes, Aidid's supporters were rounded up by the thousands, most of which were armed and at this time of the day would be hopped up on Cat, a local drug taken by the militia. During the beginning phase of the battle, one UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter, codenamed Super 61, was hit in the tail rotor by an RPG. Upon going down, both pilots were killed instantly and the crew was severely wounded. A U.S. helicopter dropping troops to rescue the crew was also hit by an RPG, but was able to escape back to the American airfield. Humvees in the Ranger convoy, on their way to pick up the prisoners, came under fire as they attempted to reach the detainees. Gunners on the Humvees' turrets began to be injured or killed rapidly, with the bulletproof glass on the Humvees beginning to wear down due to the close-quarters combat and the AK-47s that the Somalis used. Bad directions from above caused the U.S. convoy to take several wrong turns, forcing the massive line convoy to reposition in gunfire before finally making it to the prisoners. After picking up the prisoners, the assault team of 90 soldiers made it to Crash Site 1 under heavy fire. As the initial helicopter went down, reports came in from all over to go and assist the crew that were still alive. With the Ranger convoy now having the detainees, they began their way over to the first crash site. Black Hawk Super 64, which was flying overhead, piloted by sole survivor Michael Durant, was shot down by an RPG minutes later. Mastery Gunnery Sergeant Gary Gordon and Specialist Randy Sugar of Delta Force were roped down by Super 62 after their third request to help protect Super 64's crash site. Another Black Hawk helicopter, codenamed Super 62, assisted the Delta snipers until an RPG hit that helicopter, forcing it to retreat back to base, barely alive. This left Michael Durant and the two snipers alone against a large Somali mob moving in towards the crash site. Both snipers inflicted massive casualties on the mob, but eventually, Gordon and Sugar were both killed, and Michael Durant was taken prisoner. Gordon and Sugar would later receive the Medal of Honor. Despite air support, with many wounded, the assault team took over nearby houses and held out for the night at Crash Site 1. All in all, the United States' involvement in Somalia was a failure. The Battle of Mogadishu was militarily a success, with the U.S. capturing two of Aidid's top lieutenants. But many speculate that the U.S. actually had a plan to capture Aidid himself, which would label the mission in the eyes of the public a complete failure. On top of that, 19 American soldiers lost their lives, along with 2 Pakistani soldiers. All in all, the mission in Somalia did not help the civilians. In fact, it may have actually worsened relations with the civilians and the United Nations, if anything. Warlords to this day still rule Somalia, with a government in place by the United States to try and control the violence.